right, guys, welcome back. Here's the first episode of season 2 of Broomball Canada's Between the Pipes. I am one of your co-hosts, Cameron, and with me we also have Chad. Chad, how's it
Hello.
going?
It's going well. Well, summer was good. We got rid of the masks here for a while, but now we're back masked up. But we're still playing sports, so that's a good thing.
Almost ready to get back on the ice or what?
Yeah, hopefully get the season underway soon and get back out there and play the sport that we love.
I've already been on the ice, I think 6 times in the last 2 weeks, and I can't get enough of it. So,
yeah.
Speaking of things I can't get enough of, sarcastically, that would be refs. Some games we love them, some games we hate them. I'm going to say most of the time we hate them, but we need them there. Sometimes we call them bad names, but we couldn't play without them. You guessed it, it's the referees. So who we got joining us today, Chad?
So we got 2 refs joining us today for this podcast. We've got Mr. Fred Parsons from Newfoundland and Labrador. He's been involved in the sport for broomball for decades in almost every role of the game, and I believe he's also in charge of the broomball out there, the provincial organization. So Fred Parsons from Newfoundland is one of our guests, and then we've got another guest with us from Alberta. So basically both ends of the spectrum, I guess, from the country, one from far east and one as far west as we can go, because we don't really have anything going on with BC. So
have we had anybody from Alberta yet? Or
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I think we might have, but I'm honestly I can't remember.
I'm thinking he's our first.
Anyway, right, so it's Garth Jones. Yeah, Garth Jones from Alberta.
Hello.
Garth, you're sideways. What's going on here?
Am I? Do I do this?
Yeah, you're welcome.
How's that? Is that better? All right.
That's perfect.
Although being sideways, you probably need to be sideways in order to be a ref, so it makes sense.
Good one. And the shots begin. All right.
We're just preparing you for the season ahead, right? So.
Well, you know what? I'll just be thankful to get on the ice. So, that's fine. Give me all the shots you got.
Right on. So the way this works tonight, fellas, is Cam and I are going to ask you guys a series of questions. We're going to rotate on who we ask first. Sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on how the conversation's going. But I'll start off asking a question, and I'll start with you, Garth, and then we'll carry on. So, how did your broomball reffing career start? How did you get into broomball? Did you play broomball before you reffed, or did you go straight to reffing? Like, tell us all about your grandiose career.
How I got here. Well, I don't think we played any broomball in high school. I played broomball when I went to university in Waterloo in the mid-'70s, and that was just more intramural. It seemed like a lot of fun. So I got involved that way, just played for a couple of years while I was going to school. And then in the summer of 1979, in the winter of 79, I knew some guys that reffed broomball in Saskatchewan, where I grew up, in Yorkton. And I ended up, it just shows you how times have changed. I reffed in the 1979 Saskatchewan provincials, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but they must have been really short. And I remember it was a very dirty provincials. It was very rough, like it was, broomball's really calmed down over the years compared to now. So I reffed in the provincials there. And then I moved out to the coast, didn't do any reffing there. And I got involved back in about 1995 in Calgary here. And I worked with a woman who she coached one of the women's teams. That's when Calgary had about 8 men's teams and about 7 or 8 women's teams. And I went out, I told her, she told me that she coached broomball. And I thought, well, gee, I wouldn't mind getting back into broomball a little bit. So she gave me the name of the head ref there, which is Bill Fair, for those who remember Bill. And I went out to watch one game, and I had a chat with him after. I watched a couple games at the rink. He gave me a rule book and said, I'll see you next week. I came out the next week, and he gave me a uniform, and I was on the ice. That was in 1995, and I've been reffing ever since. So, and that's 25, 26 years in Calgary here. So Bill Fair kind of got me going. He mentored me very well, and Jerry Sellinger as well. Those two gentlemen got me started. Yeah,
very cool. So you've been doing it since I was a baby, actually. So that's you got some games under your belt.
Well, yeah, I've got a few. I used to keep track, but I lost track 15, 18 years ago. It's
what number did you lose track at?
A couple hundred, I suppose, and I just kind of gave. I didn't really know if I'd be ref. I didn't expect to be reffing still, but it's in the last 10 years, it's been basically, it's hard to find refs in Calgary. Mm-hmm. And I actually retired once, and then I came back the next year, at the AGM. I think they even gave me a plaque, and then I came back the next year. Yeah. I came back because I didn't want the league to die. And and they need a ref because as even now when we only have a mixed team that gathers together, I come out just basically drop the ball and call the odd offside, and that makes a difference to them. So I thought I should keep going because no one else, refs have come and gone. I've refed with about 15, 20 guys since Bill retired. So and that's just the nature of the sport. And I didn't want it to die in Calgary, and I wanted to help out where I could, so I kept reffing.
Yeah, that's cool. Right, thanks for sticking with it.
Yeah,
kudos to you. Okay, Fred, you're up.
Oh, I've been involved, I guess, with broomball right on through since for about the last 50 years. I played and played local league. I played provincial. Never did get to play national, and I think I played in 5 provincials that we were the runner-up to. Corner Brook were dominating in those years. They would have beat us 1-0 in 5 years straight. And then finally I retired from playing. I coached for 3 years, 3 more silver medals. So I finally retired from that. And of course the next year, who should win the provincials but the team that I played with. So
don't take it personally.
Well, I was a little disappointed because this national tournament that I used to go to on administration side to the national meetings, and I never did get to play in it. I never did get to coach in it. But when it comes to the other side with the officiating, I had 2 sports jocks that I reared up, and so therefore I got heavily involved in minor hockey, school hockey, and that's where my say personal officiating started with the minor hockey and the high school hockey, and then I started refereeing some broomball games in the other. We had 2 leagues actually in our town then, and but it was just an off and on thing. But my good old buddy Bruce Moores was after retiring, and so all of a sudden, and I was after retiring from coaching, like I mentioned. So all of a sudden, then we're looking for referees, and like most places, experience, they're not that plentiful. So I started doing the provincial tournaments that year, getting groomed for, believe it or not, that I was finally going to the national. So I done all the provincial tournaments. I got pressured into doing the big games. Then there was Atlantic Championships that I done, and after that was off to Petit Roger and Beersford for my first national broomball tournament in an official capacity, not as a player or a coach.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sticking with it for so long. Like, it's crazy how long both your careers have spanned so far, and that you're still doing it. That's awesome. I hope to be doing everything I do about broomball as long as I can. So, the thing is, I don't know if I could ref that long. I don't know if I would love refing. I tried it for the first time last night in a long time. We had a kind of a for fun game to start our league off, just to kind of get COVID paperwork done. And I actually I refed juvenile game. So I coached Sting versus Warriors, and it got pretty heated for the first game of the season, and it wasn't fun to ref. So why do you guys do it? What do you love about reffing? Gareth, let's start with you.
Well, before I start, I want to show you my shirt that I got from the Alberta Broomball folks. I don't know if you can see it all. It says, never underestimate an old man who loves broomball. So that's just something they gave me. It's they're just nice guys, and they gave me the very bright colors. I have an orange one too, but I thought the purple one wouldn't burn your eyes today, so that's what I wore. That's what I'm wearing today. So what do I love about well, I guess you have to love the game itself to begin with. You have to enjoy it. And I've always been in sports all my life. In my career, I just retired just before COVID hit. Good timing there. I've always been in the recreation field. That's the career I chose. I was with the recreation department in Burnaby and in Calgary for 40 years. I think the biggest thing about it, you have to love the sport, and you have to like to run. You know, if you don't like to run, don't play broomball, because other than recreational with your buddies on a Friday night before you've had too much to drink type thing, you got to love the game. You got to love the activity, and you have to like to run, because that's what it is. For me, reffing, I love the game. I played it, and I was pretty good at it, but I thought as I was getting older, I'd rather ref. There's a lot of camaraderie in the officiating world, and I think that's what I love about it. The guys that do ref are not all great guys. There's no refs that I really don't want to be on the ice with, and that helps you love the game, of course, because you want to be there. And by and large, the players too, the people who play, love to play the game too. There's the odd one that that's got a bit of an attitude in any sport. And but basically, I do it because I enjoy the game, and it's something that I know I could do for a long time. A lot of players retire and they leave the game, but one of the advantages of reffing, by and large, you don't get hit too often. So I hope to, at one time when I first started, I was hoping broomball would be in the Olympics, and I had visions of being the oldest referee in the Olympics, a 95-year-old referee or something. But we'll have to wait for that time to come. But in the meantime, again, it's just for the love of the game and to enjoy what I do.
Okay, perfect, great answer. Fred, what about you? Why do you love it?
Well, I guess Gareth mentioned the key word to it all, that you have to love the sport, and that's the first thing. And if you're nobody really goes out on that ice to referee for that little dollar they're going to take home at the end of the night. It's you go to McDonald's and work a shift, right? It's a whole lot easier, and probably not so much harassment. But it's the love of the game. I think that's what kept me with it. I said I've been there 50 years. I've also been on the administration side of broomball for all those years pretty well too. But so that's and it's the same thing. The referees over the years, now full disclosure, I am retired now, right? But over the years, I think it was 10 or 12 senior nationals that I'd done, 5 or 6 junior nationals in those same years. Man, all the people that I met, all the people from right across Canada that I met. And that's a team. So I played with a team, I coached a team. And when I went out to a tournament like this, whether it was provincial or national tournaments and whatever, you were going with your team. And I meant your little meetings in the nighttime and all this. I mean, those were your buddies and those were your playing, and all those guys that I've met over the years. It's so funny because I've been in different parts of Canada for other things other than broomball, and you look across the hall, and here's someone that and the guys that I've traveled with just shake their head and says, like, what are you like? But it's keywords. Keywords is that love of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta have thick skin to ref as long as you guys have, I tell you, and maybe probably be a little bit deaf as well.
Well, I go for blood work, and they have to take out the cordless drill first to get it going, right? So my skin is.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. So, what do you guys find the hardest about reffing, Fred? We may as well keep going. So, you're out there. Like what is one of those hardest things that you find that piss you off?
I'm not sure if it's that. I think the hardest part I found about refereeing over the years was trying to stay sharp. And you have to realize that you were leaving a small province. In the early years, it was worse. You were leaving a very small province with not necessarily a high level of ball. And you were stepping onto ice with the best teams in Canada, and that's what I found they at that level. And even even provincially, just trying to the first few years, or I should say the last few years, I had to get more dedicated because just going out and doing league games and all that didn't work. So then it's at the Y 5 mornings a week, try to get a little bit of cardio and trying to get some legs and under that. But I mean, other than that, if you're out on the ice, you learn how to deal with the players sometimes. Sometimes it can get a little bit frustrating. But I mean, you're out there, and I mean, you're looking at there's 10 players running all over the place. So we have to try to see in between all that.
Awesome. Garth, how about you?
Well, kind of like what Fred was saying, I think the biggest thing, it's not really hard, but it's the biggest challenge, I think, is consistency. I think the players want to know, like any sport, if you call things really tight, or you're going to let stuff go, but be consistent with it. The old story, you call all the tripping the last 2 minutes. You don't call anything because you're afraid for a penalty to be called. I've been known to call penalties with a minute to go, with the game tied, because in my mind, that's the way the game should be played. I don't think you should do what you see in the pros where they're afraid because they got other pressures. I think our pressure is whatever we put on ourselves. And the biggest thing about broomball too is being in position. Don Sims, rest his soul, he was referee in chief for many of my years in Calgary here when he was our referee in chief. And biggest thing he said is be in position. Okay, he's never going to say to us when we come off the ice, you missed a trip, you missed a slash, because he's not on the ice, we are. But when the ball's around the net and you're standing in the corner and the ball goes in, you're on your own, basically. So the biggest thing, one of the hardest thing is to keep pushing yourself to just really be on. And like Fred said, it's really hard. Right now we're playing games with co-ed once a week for an hour. That's basically what we come to from 15, 16 teams when I started. And really, it's there's really not a lot going on. Let's be honest. And then you go to the first game at Nationals with the Ottawa Nationals playing Bruno, and whoa, you're in a bit different gear, and you got to be sharp. Yeah. So you have and anticipating the play is really important too. You've got to know the game too at that level. You should at any level, but really, when there's no one in the rink at 10 at night and you're playing co-ed with 10 people on the ice that aren't sure if they even want to be there, it's very different. So you've got to sort of readjust every time, like Fred was saying. And some of the league agency he has, they're not that tough really, but they're going to get tough. So when you meet in the nationals or even provincials, you've got to anticipate. So there's nothing hard about it, but it's a challenge every time, is to tell yourself before you go on, have a good communication with your buddy that you're reffing with, and just be on top of it.
Those are all great points. I know when you were talking about being in the right spot, right position, I felt last night that I had no idea where I should be standing. I felt like I knew enough about the rules that I was comfortable making calls and stuff. But anytime I dropped the ball, I just felt like I was in everybody's way.
All you gotta do is ask the teams.
Well,
all you gotta do is ask the teams. There's probably, if you got a team of 18 players, there's 18 refs on that team, and they know where to tell you to go. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, in about 900 games from now, you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all it takes. Eh?
Yeah. Hang in there. Don't give up.
So what do you think, what can be done to get younger refs out there? I know in our area, we've got one ref under 40. It's just one. Luckily, and he just started last year, and I know he's doing it for the money, the little money there is for it, and that's why he's doing it. What else could we do to get younger refs into reffing for us? Would it be taking guys from hockey and offering them a bit more money if there was money there, or are we going to talk to some kids at Broomball? What do you guys think? Garth, we'll start with you.
Well, the last few refs that have come and gone in Calgary, I'm really the only ref now in Calgary, and there's Don Markowitz is the only one really in Edmonton, and that's all we've got. We go to provincials, it's two of us. And so we do all the games, 8 or 9 in a row type thing in a day. I think it's not really, I don't think it's really part of the curriculum in school, in high school, let's say. And there's real competition with hockey. And I don't think it's cool. You know what I mean? It's not a cool sport. It's not where your buddies want to go, right? And it doesn't get any press. It really has no standing really anywhere unless you're in it. What I'm finding is that even when I first started, a lot of the younger players that were coming in, they were kids of some of the older guys, but nobody seems to want to ref. And like you say, the refs that did come came from hockey. I know for a while there, we had some volunteers in our league that were going out to the high schools, talking to the phys ed teachers, trying to get more involved, bringing equipment out, get it part of not the official curriculum, but introducing it. And almost everybody you meet across Canada, if you say you're involved in broomball, they say, oh, I remember doing that in high school once on the grass. And we just stood around and kind of hit the ball. And then we waited for the bell to ring and we went inside. So I think it doesn't seem to be very important to the teachers, the phys ed teachers, in my mind. I don't think it's part of the curriculum. So if you don't even know the game as a player, why would you come and ref when you're younger? Especially because, like you mentioned, you're going to get yelled at. And one of the first things that Bill Fair said to me, he said to the players, my first day on the ice with him, after I read the rule book a week ago, and here I was. He said to the captains of both teams, he called them to center ice. He said, he's a new ref. If you've got something to say to him, don't. And you shut your mouth. If you lip off to him, I'm throwing you in a box. He's trying to learn the game and we need him as a ref. That's what he said to the players. But I wasn't 16, right? I was an adult and that whole thing. So ongoing promotion, I even notice in, how much publicity do we even get at provincials from the local press or even in the nationals? It's not a tremendous amount in my mind. So, and you look in the stands, who's coming out to watch? It's grandma and grandpa and girlfriend, boyfriend, husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
There's not even kids coming out to say, gee, that looks kind of fun. They're not even coming out to watch. So if they're not coming out to watch, what's going to bring them to ref, especially in their mind? If they've ever refed hockey when they're kids, they got yelled at and they quit. So why try something else that they really don't know the game? So that's a tough one. And there's been no success here. They put ads out for refs and all we get is guys from hockey that'll come, and some last a year or two and then they quit for various reasons. Sometimes it's not enough. They want to do a few more games. So they go back to hockey. So
I know here in Saskatchewan, we're losing some refs to lacrosse. Lacrosse is starting to pick up big time here, and even some kids are going to play lacrosse instead of hockey. So but it all depends. If you want to play field lacrosse, box lacrosse here is in the spring, so it shouldn't affect the broom ball or the hockey numbers, right? Because box lacrosse is in spring, and then if you want to play field lacrosse, it's in the summer. So you can't do that really in the winter. So I'm not sure that old age adage that we're losing players to lacrosse now is getting a little wearing thin on me, because I've been looking at it to put my son into lacrosse as well, and it works good because he can play lacrosse and broom ball, so he can do both.
Yeah, I don't even think of having refs here. I'm more concerned about having teams. I mean, why recruit a ref when they hardly need me? I wasn't even going to go out before COVID hit, and they asked me to go out just to drop the ball and to make it feel like they're having a game. So that's so far down the priority list here. We're just trying to revive a province that's on life support with the players.
And I know I maybe shouldn't chime in, but I'm going to, Garth, because you made mention of something that is really dear that we're trying to do in Saskatchewan here too, is with the schools, right? If you can't get a phys ed teacher to teach the game correctly in school and put it as part of curriculum, they're asking for these loaner kits from our SBA, and we're giving them to them. But basically what it is they throw loaner kits on the ground or in the dressing room in the middle and say, here, and then they walk out and go in the lobby, and it's free time for them for an hour or whatever the PE class is. Like, I mean, if you're not even going to teach the sport or the game and get them interested, get them understanding what it is, and show them how great it could be, what's the point, right? It's like you said, like we need that education on phys ed teachers piece, and that's something that we're trying to really look into.
Well, it's an uphill battle because I'm sure it's not even on the provincial curriculum. Broom ball is, it's football, basketball, the traditional track, et cetera, et cetera. I would dare say broom ball is not on that list. So they probably throw it in. Maybe the guy used to play broom ball when he was in high school. And one class and it's done.
It's in the curriculum to the point where it's used as a rec, right? Like, this is what we're going to do because it has all this. And then, like you said, it's 2 classes, and then that's it.
Yeah. No.
Sorry for hijacking you there, Fred.
Yeah, no problem at all. Well, actually, it's about all the same thing. I think, like, there's 2 main areas that we've managed to get officials from, and it's always still a struggle. And of course, it's the same thing. We find that if you're an official with hockey, then okay, we got one thing down pat already, that you can put up with the crap that you gotta deal with in some games, right? So what we did for a number of years, and our referee in chief just happens to be about 71 years old, and he's still refereeing. He was a level 5. We swiped him from hockey about 25 years ago. He was a level 5 hockey referee, and he enjoyed the sport, and he stayed with it, and he's still with us today. And I've taken the role more as a technical director and a tournament director, say, and so the two of us work hand in hand, and it works out good. And what we've in the last number of years when I was refereeing, what we probably do was take we love doing games together, like Garth mentioned earlier on, a good buddy to do. It was you wouldn't break a sweat, but the hard part about it was we had so many referees that we had to go out and mentor in a game situation, because if they get caught up in the technicalities, they could call a game. They knew what a trip was, they knew what a slash was, and all that. But when you get into the finer technical stuff, we sort of have to whisper, okay, no, that's not a 5, that's only a 2 or something, really. But anyway, so that's where we the other area where we've had great success is, I guess, is similar to what I went through myself, that I played, then I coached, and then I still wanted to stay with the game, and then I found this area that I could still stay with the game and the people in the game by moving into officiating. So that's the two areas that we've been very fortunate. But every time we get a couple of good guys on the go, they decide to leave and go to Calgary for work for some reason or other, right? So there should be a few guys over there kicking around that whether they're still active, I don't know, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and sometimes you may just have enough, and before you're going to a tournament, you get that call and says something's up, I can't make it. And then guys are ready then to go out, like Garth said, to do probably 7 or 8, 8 or 9 games in a row. That's you can't be at your best at that level, right?
Exactly.
All right, Chad, you got a question for them?
I do. So, as you guys know, there are different levels in our sport, right? We've got men, women, co-ed, senior, juvenile. I'm sure you guys have took your turns at reffing all levels and different types, whether it be which or other. Do you guys find a difference in reffing different levels? Is there a difference in the game? And is a certain one you guys love or would rather prefer reffing than the other? We'll start with you, Garth.
Well, I don't do a lot of juvenile because we don't have anything here, and you don't go to nationals for juvenile unless you have a team from your province. So I haven't done juvenile since back in Belgoni, whenever that was, 10 years ago or so. I like them all. I mean, I like co-ed because I don't do competitive co-ed here. I'm talking about before we just had this one co-ed team here. It's nice to do something different. And what I like about co-ed is that with the lack of the body checking, that fact that it's just more of a fast game, because it's like seniors, right? You got to play the ball. None of this. It's not like the men's league where there's bumping and crashing. So it's a nice change. They're actually playing the game without trying to take a guy's head off, so to speak. So that's a nice change. That's a nice change. I like them all. I just wish sometimes when I do a women's game, they would stay on their feet a lot more. It really makes me nervous when they slide out. There's a lot of, accidentally tripping and wiping out just because when they take a shot, of course, we all know a lot of them like to go down on their knees to get their leverage, I suppose. But other than that, I really enjoy them all. Men are a bit rougher. You just have to be on your game, like you say, when you've got some of the top teams in the especially at nationals, some of the top teams in Canada together. And if you've been around long enough, there's some teams like each other more than they like other teams, or don't like each other. So you just have to really be on top of it. So I really don't have I don't have a preference. It's actually nice doing. I actually enjoy going to nationals because that's the only time you really get into the sport, in Alberta here. So again, you just have to be on your gear when you see your the night before. You find out what games you're doing the next day. So you just have to be really on top of it. It's nice to do a balance. I wouldn't want to do 3 men's games in a row at nationals. So by and large, the refereeing chief gives us a good balance. So they're all fun, and they've all got their little quirks, but they're all good to ref.
All right, now bad.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's very political. It's awesome, Garth.
yeah, that about sums it up, because you know, some would think that the men's game is faster, so they're a little harder to do and all that. But Garth mentioned a key factor there. Even with the lower caliber games, you're really trying to see, was that clumsiness or was that really a penalty? And so no matter, so while you're probably not running so fast, you're trying to concentrate more on the plays. So, you know, it's and I mean, let's face it, you go to a national tournament, and usually it's 2 good referees that's going out on the ice to do the championship game. And just will be truthful with you, championship game usually for the men is probably the worst game in the whole friggin' tournament, because I mean, everybody's just waiting for that single one break to score a goal and win it 1-0, right? So it's you know, that's the funny part about it. Some of the better games are in your round robin, but I've watched a good many championship games, and they were pretty well sleepers, right? Until someone got that one chance with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, score, win it 1-0.
Well, speaking of that, is there any time that you can remember that you made a bad call in one of those big important games that lost the team for somebody, and you might have been too proud to say anything at the time? Maybe it was 10 years ago, but is there anything that sticks out in your guys' minds that you guys screwed up? I'm sure I could name a million times refs screwed up, but let's see how self-critical you guys are.
Think about this.
Can't remember an incident.
Think about this as your confession and your cleansing. You know, you can go do a few rosemaries or whatever after, but come out. This is just get it off your chest and feel better about it, Garth.
Well, sometimes, you know, like Don Sims used to say, it's easy to make a call from the stands, and It really is. And you know, you're right there. Often the say the infraction is very near you, and it's a split second call. There's a few times I've put my arm half up and put it down really quick and hope no one saw that over the years. Because it's just one of those things you just think, oh, no, it's not. Okay. And that happens. But, you know, I never put, once the arm's up, it's up. Sometimes you may, you know, the players and the fans may consider a borderline call. But my biggest thing about that is, you know, is consistency. It's not the matter of making a bad call. You know, if I think it's a trip and you didn't, or a slash, I mean, the tough one is when you got a guy that's 240 pounds hitting a guy that's 160 into the boards. And the guy said that was a clean check. Yeah, it was. But there's such a penalty called boarding. I said, you know, you can make your check, but you tried to put him through the boards. In my mind, that's a penalty. And we're all different. The next ref may let that one go. I've been on the ice when my partner, it's a lot easier when you see your partner. I mean, one time he made a call that I almost cringed many years ago. But the players came to me and said, did you see that play? How can that be a penalty? And I said, he's made the call. Simple as that. And in the dressing room after, we talked about it. He even said, I feel bad. I shouldn't have made that call. And it led to a goal. And it's what he saw as a penalty. And I didn't, but he did. And I'm sure I've done the same thing. It's a lot easier to look at your partners or from the stands to say that. I think the biggest thing that goes back, sometimes I feel bad, it goes back to positioning. I remember in the Nationals years ago in Leduc, where the clock is in the middle of the rink hanging down. It's not on the end. It's not on the end wall. So my partner was at the net and I was inside the blue line, and there were seconds left to go. And there was a women's game. Everyone was standing around the front of the net. And I couldn't see. I pinched in right to the circle. And then, of course, the buzzer goes. So I kept looking back to see, look at the clock, look at the net, look at the clock. And all of a sudden, screaming at the ball went in, right? And my partner and I chatted, and we made the call. And of course, one team was very happy with us. One team was very upset with us. And one said the clock had gone, or the game had expired. And as I was told after by those in the stands that were connected to the refereeing world, some of the other refs were sitting, they, as far as they're concerned, they, when the cheering started, there was like a second left on the clock type thing. So it's, I think it's just, again, it's a matter of being comfortable with your call. I can't think of one where I've come off the ice and say I shouldn't have called that slash or that trip or whatever. If I think it is, it might be a soft call, but it's my call. One thing I will call, as guys are starting to know, that if they open their mouths, if they swear at me, that is something that I'll make every time. And that's the easiest call for me to say. If I make a call and they swear at me, they get another 2 minutes. So they got 4. So to me, that's an easy call. And so I don't regret doing that. Some refs will let that go. I don't. And certainly in Alberta, I've got one of, we have reputations. My reputation is don't swear around Garth. And if you want to talk to me respectfully, fine, but just don't swear at me. So I don't regret that. But again, it goes down to being comfortable with your call and sticking with it. But don't be eager to hold your arm up too quick. It's okay to wait a half a second, even though the crowd's yelling at you. I've left calls go that everyone's mad at me that I didn't call. So you can't be swayed by that. So that's one of the toughest things about reffing is that consistency with making your call.
Yeah, you're right, Garth. And you know what? That's power to you. You're very confident in your reffing, and you should be. You reffed many, many years, and having being able to answer the question and say, no, I don't regret a call I ever made. That's awesome. Like, that's fantastic. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. Sometimes I know there's been a penalty behind me, like a trip, but you don't have eyes everywhere, right? Nope. And a captain will come up after and say, how about that trip? And I said, he may have been tripped, but I have to see it. I didn't see it. I'm not saying he didn't get tripped, but I didn't see it, so I can't call it. I can't guess. I was pretty sure the guy was tripped, but I didn't see it. So I said, I won't call it because I didn't see it. And they say, okay, we understand you.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's the most often, I wouldn't say excuse. That's the most often reasoning I hear.
Yeah, you have to see it. You're pretty sure it was a penalty. We're not stupid, but we didn't see it. We're looking at different places, and some guys are pretty tricky with their little penalties too, right? So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Garth.
Okay.
Well, Fred, I think it's your turn to talk. Garth's talked quite a bit, but I think maybe we have time for you too.
Yeah, you can tell me if I'm talking too much, please.
Well,
no, wouldn't want to get on your bad side.
It's what it's all about. And yeah, you're right. You're a ref. We don't want to get on your bad side. The last thing I need is a penalty.
Well, you wear a mask in net, so I won't even recognize you.
Well, no, I won't be playing no more. Have you? Like, my playing days are over. I'm now coaching, so I mean, I don't need a bench finder.
Well, even one of those. Just change your hat, and I won't recognize you.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah, it's a little difficult. Yeah, sure. We've all made calls that we weren't, we question ourselves on, I guess. But you're out there and you're running yourself and you're trying to look, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And like I said, there's 10 players out there running back and forth, and in a lot of cases in front of you, so yeah, sometimes you can only, and again, you can only call what you see. It was wonderful before the days of video because I have got caught a couple of times calling, probably a high broom on a goal, and having that video shoved in my face after the game and say, hey, listen, that wasn't high. It's so before video was pretty good. But if we even look at it now, speak about video, if we look at the professional sports, and the umpire, the referee makes a call, and it's questioned, it's challenged, and they use video from about 10 different angles. And in a lot of cases, they say, well, we just don't see enough to overturn the call on the ice. So, how in the world are we as amateurs going to do a game and be able to catch everything, see everything? So yeah, I think we've all got caught into the bad call. I can't remember any really serious calls that would have ended up possibly changing changing the result of a tournament or something like that. I certainly I don't think any referee would ever want that to be put on his pedigree.
Awesome. Okay, well, on to our next question. So, obviously, you guys have ref forever. I'm going to say forever because, Fred's been in it in 50 years. I mean, if not refing, part of the game. And especially, and Garth, yourself too, you've been around it forever. But Fred, you being an administrative and being able to, be a part of those rule changes and everything else, is there a rule that you guys, if you could, want changed or make or anything? Like, is there anything you would like to see different at all? And we'll start with you, Fred.
Yeah, you pretty well answered the question already, because from being involved at the national level from the administrative side and saying now and whatever, I'm really proud of where we've taken the game over the last say 8 or 10 years. I mean, years ago, some of the rules that were there were pretty awkward. Were pretty I don't know. It just wasn't helping the game. But I think we finally got to the point now where we have a set of rules that that we're playing with, and every 2 years there's a few little tweaks that may come up and all that. So I really don't see any big rule change that would improve the game. There's little, like say, little tweaks that may be required, but I think the national body has done. And we do play national rules totally in Newfoundland, and we don't change anything and all that. So I think where it sits right now, and I think the national body should be proud that we've reached that point in Broomball.
Awesome.
Gareth, do you you concur with that? You here to switch around the whole rule book on us?
No, yeah, Fred's right. There's a few little rules that got changed over the years that I've been reffing. One of them that used to really bug me was high broom, was just to blow it down. To me, that was just lazy defense and dangerous. Now it's a penalty, right? High broom, you flip it and the guy that stands at center and just whacks it down. No consequence other than the face-off, right? So I'm glad the high broom is a penalty. I mean, that was worth.
It completely changed the game. Like, it completely changed.
When did that become a rule? I didn't know it used to be.
I don't even know if you were born yet. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember anymore. I don't even know what
I've always known it as a penalty.
Yeah. The look on your face, you're wondering. I was wondering. Can you hear me? Yeah, that was a penalty. That wasn't a penalty at one time, and it just destroyed the flow of the game. Guys would just stand there and they put their tall guy in the middle and he'd just wave at the ball and whack it down, and it's just a drop of the ball. So, they could make that a 5 if they wanted to, but no, it's 2's enough. Something that would help. It's hard to control because people slip and fall, but I still get nervous when I see people sliding towards somebody, especially when they're not watching from behind. They leave their feet. sometimes you accidentally fall and you take a guy out. And I call a lot of penalties like that. And they say, well, I didn't do it on purpose. Well, you don't slash on purpose, or you do sometimes. You don't always trip on purpose, for instance. But to me, the moment you leave your feet, all bets are off. If you wipe a guy out, it's, in my mind, it's a penalty. Unless, you know, you've got to sort of watch the play. And if a guy, you know, a little trip and the guy tries to brace himself when he bumps into the guy. But by and large, especially if it's a bad wipeout, I'll call a penalty. And the guy said, I didn't do it on purpose. I said, you leave your feet. And that's what happens a lot in the girls. They leave their feet to take a shot, then they slide into an opponent and they trip them or knock them off balance. That's dangerous. It doesn't happen a lot in nationals because most of the players are pretty strong and they stay on their feet and they know the advantage of that. But leaving the feet, I can see potentially being something that we may want to call more. I call it tripping. You know, there's submarining and all these kinds of things, but those are mostly on purpose. But often people will say, well, I didn't, you know, I slipped. And I said, well, that's a tough one. You know, that's a tough call, but you can seriously injure someone by taking them out, especially from behind. I've seen some really bad spills, you know, the knees and the ankles and wiping out on your head and type of thing. But like Fred said, I think the CBF have done a really good job over the years of tightening up on the rules and adjusting as we go. So I really don't have any issue with the rules as they stand now. And it's just a matter of enforcing them and understanding them and going back to being consistent. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean,
Okay,
Fred can attest to this too, right? Like we have every second year we have a change here, so people are more than welcome. Every organization is allowed to bring whatever they want to see to the table, and we evaluate them, right? So
no, that's all you can do is ask for feedback, watch the game, figure it out, and what's in the best interest of the game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those little changes they make, I'm glad they gave me this question because I absolutely hate this new rule. Coming as a guy who doesn't wear elbow pads either, how do you feel about the not wearing gloves rule? I know I'm going to get called for not wearing elbow pads because I know that's a rule, but at least you can't see the elbow pads, so I get away with it. Now I got to put gloves on. Do you guys agree with that new rule change, or how do you feel about it? Fred, let's start with you there.
Yeah, it's some sort of protection should be there, but we do other things. We say sometimes that some fellas' brain is in their boots, so sometimes their brain may be in their hands or something. So yeah, you should, if you're going to protect your head, we make that mandatory. In some cases, the mask, the full mask is mandatory. So you know, should we be leading the way in that? Now, it also comes up to, there's a whole bunch of legal stuff there that, you know, that your rules must be there to protect your players. And this is done by your insurance companies and by your, you know, so if something happens and I break a finger and I say, hey, you know, well, I was playing the game the way they wanted me to play. So I think they're, you know, looking for player protection. I don't think there's anything the matter with that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Gareth, you agree with the rule too?
Well, I do. I find, I'm thinking back how many guys now don't wear gloves, and it's usually guys that are been playing for 40 years and they just never did and don't want to, and it feels funny. And I know one guy that cuts out underneath. It looks like he's got gloves on, but under the underpad, his hand is gripping onto the stick. And if you don't look there, you look on the outside, he's wearing a glove. But of course, he just tapes it onto his hand. So he's really grabbing onto the stick. So he's kind of cheating it. It's kind of, you know, it's one of those things that's like, oh, boy, that was creative. What should I do about that? But other than that, like Fred said, you know, it's more for the insurance, unfortunately, and it's more for the protection of the player. I know they don't like it. It's kind of the same idea with the face mask, right? You know, it's in mandatory
Yeah, I don't know.
half
Like
shield.
that rule either.
Well, you know, it's the old story.
Yeah.
You don't like the rule until you lose an eye. Then you say, why didn't they make me? No, I would have my eyes. You know, again, you're part of a bigger picture. And
No,
I know you mean that facetiously, but I think the players, the ones that are really adamant against it, they've got to look at the big picture. And it's not just all about them and the people that provide them the opportunity to play broomball. They have to make that judgment. And I think in the long run, you get used to it. Years ago when I started, I didn't wear anything on, no mask or anything, till I accidentally, guy got hit and the stick swung around and it hit me in the eye, missed my eye, or just missed my eye, but I got 3 stitches by my eye and I missed it by 1/4 of an inch. And it came so fast, it hit my helmet and blah, blah. So the next week I put a visor on. I've had one ever since. And that was 10 years ago plus, I guess. So I learned the hard way. I almost lost my eye. And, you know, and who am I going to blame for that?
Chicks dig scars, Garth.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Yeah.
See, I can understand.
I wish it was.
I can understand why.
I wish girls were watching the game.
Yeah, well,
Or ladies, sorry, ladies.
Yeah,
Excuse me. Yeah. So
See, I can understand why they made the face mask rule. Losing an eye and stuff wouldn't be good. But if I want to break my finger, let me break my finger is how I look at it. I mean, it's not going to kill me. It's not going to impede how I live my life. But
well, you know what?
The way it goes, I guess everyone's got to cover their ass. So.
Well, it's, you know, you probably just don't like the feel of it, obviously.
We need to protect our players, right?
Yeah.
So where does it end? Do we add shoulder pads? Do I need to start wearing hockey pants? Like why are we changing it? When does this line keep moving until we're just covered in armor?
Well, in my experience, we haven't moved too far that way. I mean, it hasn't gotten ridiculous yet in my mind. I mean, they could do a lot more. There's another rule too that a lot of players don't like, is a lot of guys like to hoist up their sleeves on their jersey, exposing their elbow pads, right? Because they get warm in the arm, and you got to have you got to elbow pads, shoulder pads, they have to be covered. And there's guys in the league that that don't want to do that. You know, half of their elbow pads showing, and I say, pull your jersey down. You can't expose your elbow pad. Well, what's the problem with that? You know, so our job is to, you know, help protect at the same time. In his mind, it wasn't a big deal, but in the bigger picture, it is a big deal. Because if you don't have a little padding over a sharp edge of an elbow pad, you could cut a guy bad. So
especially with the elbow pads, but you know, especially with some of the elbow pads that guys are wearing, it's not just a soft covered elbow pad anymore. Like elbow pads that they're manufacturing today have hard covers. Like
it's armor. It's armor. Yeah. And they say, well, what's the big deal? And I says, well, if you do it again, if you come out again like that, I'll give you a penalty. Blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like, you know, come on, you know, then try to make the refs the bad guy. Well, we're not the bad guy. We're trying to protect the guy that you're going to elbow, and he's going to have a cut rather than a sore, you know, big difference. So,
yeah, I can tell Cam's very passionate about this glove thing, and I understand.
I've only been playing forward for 6 years, and I can't go to wearing gloves. I'm just gonna stick to goalie.
No, so okay. Last question of the night, guys. Thank you for your time, but comes down to it. We ask everyone this question at the end, whether they're playing or whatever. But what is your best memory? Obviously, this is a ref session, so we'll start with Fred. What is your best memory as a referee? Now, you've got probably a million memories as, you know, an administrator, player, coach, you name it, but talking reffing tonight. So what is your best memory as a ref?
There's a lot, and would be a lot to pick from, but it probably, my best memory, there's two that really, so I'm going to split the two.
I'm okay with two. Yeah, give her.
The first one would have had to be the first game I done at the Nationals. and I mentioned earlier on in the Petit Roger and Beersford area, that I was in the dressing room getting a little, okay, this is my game here, first time, and yeah, the butterflies were going crazy, and all of a sudden there's a bench clearing brawl out on the ice, and there's about 6 referees out there trying to clear. It happened in about the last 15 seconds of the game, and it was. And all I kept saying as I was going back to the dressing room was, "Oh my God, what am I into?" And things did settle down. We're getting ready to go out and do my first game, and I knew the teams that I was playing. It just so happened to be the host team. But what I didn't realize was that everybody in that area showed up for the game. They were hanging off the rafters, and this was my very, very first, very first game at the national levels. You could not hear a word in the arena, and I mean just the noise and the crowd. And I really wasn't prepared for that. But the excitement after the first 4 or 5 minutes when you got into the game, then I mean it was, and that is a good memory, a good memory of what I got in my officiating days. The other one had to be in Goose Bay when Goose Bay hosted the Nationals, and I guess as the referee from Newfoundland, and after being to the Nationals for a number of years, and I knew a lot of the guys that were coming in, so they did give me at the hotel this bloody big 3-bedroom apartment type thing, so I could do some hosting with the officials. And then the chair of the hosting committee said, "Would you like a little bit of caribou to cook for your friends?" I said, "Gee, I'd love that. Yeah, I'd love that." And the guy shows up later on with a quarter of caribou, but the hoof is still sticking out of the bag, right? Not cut off or something. Believe it or not, one of the referees that was there from Newfoundland, and I knew he was a butcher. He took the thing. The thing was frozen solid, deboned it, and about 2 or 3 days later, we had this bloody big feed of Labrador caribou with a whole bunch of veggies to go with it. And I think hosting, I'd say all my friends from across Canada in Goose Bay certainly had to be one of the top moments in my career.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. Like, that's awesome. Like, wow.
Yeah, there's a
Harris,
good
you got any
Hey,
memories
Garth,
that can top
you're
that?
up, buddy. You got a lot to top there, but I'm sure you can.
No. I wish I was there at that one. I was supposed to be in Goose Bay, Happy Valley, 10 years ago when we had that airline strike, and we ended up going to Arnprior. So that would have been my trip to Goose Bay. Missed that. So I hope you saved me some of the caribou. Is it in the fridge, Fred? Did you save me?
It's all gone.
You saved me a sandwich? No? Okay. Well, I think what Fred's, I'll echo what Fred's saying. I think the biggest memories for me are hanging out with the boys, so to speak. I mean, you only see these guys once a year when you go to nationals. Provincials isn't too exciting. It's just me and Don. So, and you really don't, you might do 10 games before you go to nationals. And so when you go to nationals or worlds as well, I've done that as well. But I think the biggest thing is the camaraderie with the guys, no matter what it is, whether it's just pizza and beers in the evening after you're done, or just hanging out in the hotel room. I mean, that's a big part of why we do it, because we don't do it for any other reason. Love of the sport, and that's about it. We don't do it because we want to be popular, or we want to, we basically pay for our expenses and get a couple dollars for couple beer, and that's about it. So to me, that's number one, is to the camaraderie with the guys that understand why you're in it, and you understand why they're reffing as well. But after refereeing in rinks where there's 0 people, or maybe 5 or 6 in the stands on a good night, I've got some memories of full arenas when you do a playoff game. I have memories of being in Blainville, where the crowd is on top of you in the small rink. And even in Cornwall as well, where you've got several hundred people that are very into the game, cheering and yelling on your side, not on your side, et cetera, and really, you really feel like you're in the game. You're working up a sweat, and when you get off the ice in the game, hopefully you've refed a good game, and you feel like you've really contributed to the sport, and you've connected with your partner on the ice, and you guys have worked together as a team. And it's those memories that keep you coming back, because it certainly isn't the league play in the middle of winter when you want to stay home, and those types of things. So it's the big picture. We've got to keep thinking of the big picture, and I think that's what keeps us coming back, is that we love the game, and we can sort of see beyond some of the more mundane games that we go through, and with the leagues not doing very well, etc. So you put all those together, the opportunity to see good teams, to ref good teams, be with your buddies, have a caribou sandwich if you're lucky, those kind of things. It all wraps up into, that's what keeps us going.
All right. Well, that's great, guys. I appreciate everything you guys do, and I'll try to get some of my young friends out there to try to ref too, to take over for you guys.
Yeah. If I could end on one thing, I started out with my broomball career as a ref. I ref before I played, 14 years old, and I got pulled out by Peter Weichel out of Odessa, and that's when Saskatchewan was still wearing the blues. I don't know if you guys ever wore blue jerseys in your life, like the blue stripes and the blue pants, but
right.
in Saskatchewan here
The skin tight pants were beautiful. Yeah.
So we had blues on, and one of my fondest memories as a referee is my second game ever as a referee in Saskatchewan. My first game was in Francis, Saskatchewan. My second game was in Notre Dame. Notre Dame had a girls team, and they played the Odessa Flames, and I went there with Peter Weichel to ref a game, and it was intense. The rink was packed. There was teenagers everywhere, and they had broken hockey sticks swinging at you as you were running by them. They were calling you Papa Smurf because you're wearing the blues with the red fucking band on, right? So
it was the tight pants.
Yeah, it was intense, like intense. It was one of the fondest memories. It's like, oh my God, like this is insane. I need to play this game. And then I started playing like right after that game. So, but I did, my whole broomball career started with reffing before I started playing, and then I started playing, and then I was fortunate enough to go start playing provincials right away and going to national. So it was fantastic. So I've had my fair share of reffing myself, and I'm probably sure that I'm going to end up doing a little bit more reffing in my near future. Not quite yet, because I'm really busy with a ton of other things, but as you know, Garth, we have the Aboriginal or the Tony Cote Winter Games here in Saskatchewan every second year, and we're always looking for refs for that. So I end up usually strapping up for that and going out and having a good time. So,
well, Larry can call me if he's still involved.
He is. He's the referee in chief. So.
Okay.
But thank you guys so much. You guys, thank you for your time. The stories were phenomenal. Garth, you talked a lot, but that's fine. It's perfect.
That's what my mother says. Yes.
Hey, it's what it's all about. That's what these are for, right? Like, thank you guys so much.
Enjoy the
Thanks,
evening.
guys.
It's my pleasure.
Good night.
Have a good night.
See you,
See
Fred.
ya.
Night. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.